Trying to figure out the housing market? Yeah, you and pretty much everyone else. Today, we're going to break down one of the biggest financial questions out there. So let's just dive right in. So this is it, the big one. After years of just, crazy bidding wars and mortgage rates that shot through the roof, is 2026 finally the year to buy a home? We're going to dig into the key trends that'll help you figure it all out. I mean, let's be real, 2025 was rough. It was tough for pretty much anyone looking to buy a house. The market was basically frozen solid by high costs. But now it feels like the ice is starting to crack, and we're here to break down what those shifts actually mean for you. Okay, so think of this as your guide, your personal roadmap. We're going to navigate this changing landscape together, looking at everything from mortgage rates and location to some pretty clever new ways to get into a home. To really get where we're going, we have to look at where we've just been. And in 2025, home sales just cratered. They hit historic lows. It was that 1-2 punch of steep prices and really punishing mortgage rates that just kept so many people on the sidelines. All right, first up, let's tackle the biggest piece of the puzzle, mortgage rates. I mean, the cost of borrowing money has pretty much called the shots for the last few years. So what's actually in store for 2026? Remember this? Oof. Early 2025, rates were soaring past 7%. That was the number that made monthly payments feel almost impossible for so many people. It's really what put the market on ice. Okay, now here's the forecast for 2026. We're looking at rates settling in somewhere around 6.3%. Look, it's not a massive drop, right? But it is an improvement, and it's enough to bring a little bit of relief. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's what Lawrence Yun, who's the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, has to say. The key phrase here is modest decline. So it's a step in the right direction for sure, but let's be clear, we are not going back to those 3% rates anytime soon. So you might be asking, okay, why aren't they falling faster? Well, it's a little complicated. You'd think when the Fed cuts its rates, mortgage rates would just follow suit. But the thing is, there are other big forces at play, like the national debt and what investors think inflation is going to do. All that stuff can keep the cost of borrowing higher for longer. Okay, so since the rates aren't going to give us this huge break we're all hoping for, the next question is, where can you find a good deal? And it turns out that old saying, location, 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 well, it's more important than ever. And wow, this really shows the split, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the usual suspects, the super high cost markets on the California coast and in the busy parts of the Northeast. But then on the other side, you have the Midwest and the South, which are really becoming these pockets of affordability. Now let's get even more specific. Here's a list of actual cities where your dollar just stretches a whole lot further. We're talking places like Cleveland, Cincinnati, Detroit, Memphis, a lot of great cities in the Midwest and the South that are offering a much more affordable way to own a home. So we've talked about where to buy, but now let's talk about how you buy. People are getting really creative, and we're seeing some interesting strategies pop up, especially when it comes to financing and, believe it or not, new construction. First up, let's talk about ARMs, or adjustable rate mortgages. The idea is you get a lower fixed rate for the first few years, say 5 years. It's a bit of a calculated risk, right? You get a lower payment right now, but you're kind of betting that rates won't go crazy when that initial period is over. And you can see just how popular these have become. In this hunt for affordability, about 10% of all new mortgages lately have been ARMs. Now that's a pretty big jump from the historical average of around 6%. It's a clear signal that buyers are thinking outside the box. All right, now for something that might actually surprise you. For forever, the rule of thumb was that a brand new house would cost you more. Well, in this market, that rule has been completely flipped on its head. I mean, just look at these numbers. As of this past August, the average price for a new home was actually cheaper than for an existing one, by about $9,000. So the big takeaway here is simple. You absolutely cannot afford to ignore new construction in your search. So what's going on here? Why is this happening? Well, it's kind of the perfect storm. On one hand, you've got builders who are offering huge incentives. We're talking about things like helping you with closing costs, or even buying down your mortgage rate to a lower number. And then, on the other hand, there just aren't a lot of existing homes for sale, and that low supply is keeping those prices high. Phew. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. We've talked rates, location, financing, new builds. So now, let's pull it all together. Let's create a simple framework, a game plan, to help you make your decision. Here it is, your 4-step path forward. First, kind of accept that rates around 6% are the new normal, at least for now. Second, expand your search horizons. Look beyond those super expensive areas. Third, think about financing. See if something like an ARM could work for you. And fourth, absolutely check out new builds for some potentially great deals. At the end of the day, this is what it's all about. Trying to time the market perfectly, it's just a losing game. The real win is understanding what the market is doing right now and finding the opportunity that actually fits your life and your budget. And so, here we are, right back where we started, but hopefully with a whole new way of looking at things. The question isn't just, should I buy a house in 2026? The real question is, what's the right move for me in 2026? And hopefully, you now have the tools to start finding that answer.